Hey everybody, Scott Weichel. You're listening to My Kind of Country right here on Fish Creek Radio. My guest tonight is a mainstay in the country music scene and the music scene since the 1960s. He's played on over 13,000 sessions, dozens of hit records, including work for such legends as Elvis Presley, Simon and Garfunkel, Johnny Cash, Bob Dylan, Roy Orbison, and many more. And he was the musical director on the Hee Haw program for many, many, many years. And the work has distinguished his world-class harmonica playing, and he's done over 39 studio albums, and he's also a member of the Country Music Hall of Fame, folks. Please welcome Charlie McCoy to My Kind of Country. Charlie, how are you tonight?
I'm great, Scott. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful. It is just an honor to have you on the show. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure.
Well, we were talking about the music scene in Nashville, and you went down and got to jam with the Time Jumpers the other night. What a great band, especially having you in there.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are so amazing, and they've been at that for quite some time. And because in the beginning, they started in a little bluegrass club, and they have over the years built their following so big that you can't hardly get in the place now, and they play every Monday night.
Man, that's great. It's kind of like a modern version of the $1 Million Band, right?
You're right, absolutely.
Well, we're certainly going to talk about all that, and I wanted to start off going back and talking about the beginning of your career, and you recorded on the song "Candyman" with Mr. Roy Orbison.
Yeah, that was actually my second recording session to play on. My first one was actually that same week with an unknown singer from Sweden named Anne Margaret.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. And at the end of that session, Bob Moore, who was the leader, walked over to me and said, "Hey, are you busy Friday?" I was free the rest of my life. And I said, "No, I'm free Friday." He said, "Come back here to this same studio where I'm leading a session for Roy Orbison." And I thought, wow, I was a big fan of Roy Orbison, and what a thrill to get to do that. Then the record became a big hit, and my phone started to ring, and I was living my dream then.
Boy, I guess so. Now, you play some other instruments beside harmonica, too, right?
Yeah, of course, growing up, I've always played guitar and harmonica, of course. I learned bass. I had this one thought about going to university and being a music teacher, and my instrument was bass. I already always fooled around with a keyboard, and then I get interested in horns, so I fooled around with trumpet, saxophone, and tuba.
Wow. So you had some reeded instruments and some that weren't. That's unusual.
Yeah, and I found that it really helped me stick around here by being able to be versatile and do other things. I remember I was on a session with Chet Atkins, and he said, "You know what? I don't hear any harmonica on this song. Why don't you go out and play a couple of notes on the vibraphone?" And I said, "Chet, I don't play vibraphone." He said, "Oh, you can do it. Go on." I went out there and I thought, hey, this is fun. I took that instrument up pretty seriously then.
Wow. Well, I read that you played saxophone on Pretty Woman.
I did. I played baritone sax on Pretty Woman, and Boots Randolph and I were playing, and of course, they said, "Oh, what are you going to do? We don't hear any harmonica on this." And Boots said, "Hey, why don't you grab my baritone sax, play a couple of notes?" Okay.
Wow. And then we were talking about the mallet percussion you played on Blue Velvet, Bobby Vinton, too.
Right, Bobby Vinton, Blue Velvet. It was not only vibraphone, but there's some, right at the end of the song, you can hear some little, they almost sound like Christmas bells.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that was me doing vibraphone and bells.
Oh, wow, that's cool. And then you played harmonica on a whole bunch of the Elvis movie soundtracks, too.
Yeah, I was on 7 movies, and then I did 5 other albums with Elvis.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, you started your own recording career, I believe, in 1961 with Cherry Berry Wine. Is that right?
Yeah, and the reason, the way it came about is that I wrote the song with Nashville songwriter Fame writer Kent Westbury.
Oh, yeah.
And we wrote the song, and it was kind of a rock and roll kind of song, and the publishing companies then would get all their writers together and demo all the songs they'd written. And Kent said to me, he said, "Man, this song is not my style." He said, "Why don't you sing the demo?" So he went and asked Jim Denny, who was the owner of the publishing company, if I could sing the demo, and he said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And then Archie Blyer at Cadence Records heard the demo, and I get this call, and Jim Denny says, "You're not going to believe this, but Archie Blyer wants to record you."
No kidding.
We went in and did that, and the record got to number 99 in the pop charts for 1 week, and then it dropped out. Well, then the record company closed, and I thought, you know what, I'm a studio musician. I've done the artist thing. I've been there, done that, and I'm very happy because studio musician is what I wanted to be. And I'm on a session one day for Monument Records, and the boss man says, "Hey, come out to my office. I want to talk to you." And I went out there, and he said, "I want you to make some records." And I said, "Doing what?" He said, "I don't care. Go in the studio and be creative." So I made records for him for 8 years that we couldn't give away. But he was very patient. He kept saying, no, keep looking. You'll find it. You'll find it. And then, 1971, we recorded that Merle Haggard instrumental version of "Today I Started Loving You Again," and wow, everything changed.
That was a monster hit, and I still get requests for that on my show too. And that's
great.
That's a next to Haggard. I think that's a definitive version of it, even though it's an instrumental. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So so I was, and then once the record started being successful and people were asking for them, then I got really into it. So as you said, 39 studio albums, and I've already started on number 40 now. So.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. Well, tell me a little bit about the Bob Dylan sessions that you did.
Well, I knew the producer wrote. He was a songwriter, wrote for the Elvis Presley Music Group. So he lived in Texas. He would come to Nashville and demo his songs to try to get them in Elvis movies.
Oh, okay. And
so we made all of his demos, and he took some of his demos to New York once, the ones that Elvis didn't do, and the head of Columbia Records said, "These demos are great. Where did you make these?" He said, "Nashville." And he said, "Did you produce these?" And of course he was an opportunity guy, and he said, "Oh yeah." And he said, "Do you ever want to be a record producer?" And he said, "Well, yes." And so they gave him a chance to record Patti Page, who was on the last session of her contract, and he recorded with her the theme to the movie Hush, Hush, Sweet Charlotte, which was a giant hit, revived her career, kept her on the label, and now, so they feel like, oh, we found our white knight here. Now, how would you like to record Bob Dylan? So he was recording Bob Dylan on the album Highway 61, and I happened to be going to New York, and he said, "Hey, come by the studio. I want you to meet Bob Dylan." And so I went over to Columbia Studio, and Bob Dylan said, "Hey, I'm going to do a song. Why don't you get that other guitar over there and play along?" So the song was called Desolation Row, and 5 or 6 months later, Bob Johnson calls me, and he said, "Hey, get the old gang together. I'm bringing Bob Dylan to Nashville." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." And he said, I guess you didn't know, but I was using you for bait." Dylan didn't want to come to Nashville. But after you played, I kept telling him, "Now see how easy that was? That's the way it is in Nashville." So he finally agreed, and we did 3 pretty famous albums for him, Blonde on Blonde, then we did John Wesley Harding, and then we did Nashville Skyline.
Wow. That's some heavy-hitting music right there.
And it changed the recording scene in Nashville a lot, because a lot of those folk rock artists, once Dylan put his stamp of approval on Nashville, all the folk rock artists wanted to come there and record. Mm-hmm. So it changed the business a lot here. It opened up the doors for many, many more musicians and for many more studios.
Boy, I guess so. That is amazing. That's amazing. Well, tell me how the whole Hee Haw thing came about.
Well, I was called in to play on Hee Haw behind Ray Charles, just on one show.
Uh-huh.
And after the show, the boss man, Sam Lovello, asked me if I would consider playing regular in the band. And, I was really busy doing session work then. But I love the experience of being there. Man, you walk in and you're surrounded by legends, And the people there were so nice, and it was such a great atmosphere. And I said, well, okay, I'll try it for one season. Well, 24 or 18 seasons later, I was still trying it. I just loved it. It was like a big family, and we only worked for a month, and the end of the month, it was like a family reunion. When people start to get on each other's nerves, it was over. Yeah, that's probably the key to why it lasted so long.
Wow. That's amazing. When you recorded the songs with the artists on Hee Haw that we saw on TV, did you record the tracks ahead of time and then they were just kind of lip syncing to those, or were they done real live on the soundstage?
Everything was live.
It was. Wow.
We never pre-recorded on Hee Haw. The only thing we pre-recorded was the little intros to comedy skits.
Oh, sure.
Those kind of things, but the music that was on the show was always live. Which I'm really proud of that. I thought our music, sound-wise and everything, was very, very good. The fact that you're recording it live to videotape, and I was really proud of it.
Well, Hee Haw's, a lot of people laugh and joke about it, but it really was a serious, big step for country music. And anybody who was anybody was on that show, and it was hugely popular. It's still popular today. It has numerous reruns, and it's on DVD, and it still has a massive following. And there was so much talent on there. And you're right, the musicians that played on the show were second to none.
Well, I can't tell you how many times when I'm out playing concerts, people tell me, "Oh, listen, Hee Haw It was our Saturday night tradition."
Yeah.
The whole family gathered around and we watched Hee Haw. And it was like years ago, people would gather around the radio and listen to the Opry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I watched it when I was growing up. In fact, my daughter, who's 10 years old, she sat and watched a whole bunch of episodes with me that I have on DVD, and she loves it, so it's a timeless show no matter what, Well, the $1 Million Band that was on this show, this was comprised of the best. You had Chet Atkins, Boots Randolph, Floyd Kramer, yourself, Danny Davis, Jethro Burns, Johnny Gimbel, and, of course, Roy Clark.
Yeah, that was what an experience that was. And, boy, you're talking about a bunch of legends. There's a bunch of legends there.
How did that idea come about?
Actually, it was our producer's idea, Sam Lovello. We had different ones of those people on as soloists, and I don't know. He just had an idea one day what it would be to get them all together. And the first time we got together, everyone kind of stood around and looked at each other because there was no plan, Then all of a sudden, Chet took off playing a song, and then everybody jumped in there, and we said, "This is the way we do this." These guys, they come in with a song idea, and then let's let it happen there, like spontaneous, the way we all do session work. Wow. And it was really, really a great segment.
Wow, that's incredible. This might be kind of a hard question to answer, but are there some sessions that you did over the years that kind of stand out in your mind as some of the more favorite things that you did?
Absolutely. My two favorite records I played on was Old Dogs, Children, Watermelon Wine, Tom T. Hall.
Oh, yeah.
And He Stopped Loving Her Today, George Jones. Some other ones that rank up there for me is I Was Country When Country Wasn't Cool. Delta Dawn, Take This Job and Shove It. I did the tuning guitar on Detroit City. Jerry Reed picked it, and I tuned it.
On Bobby Bear's version?
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a really fun session. And in my first, when I did Orange Blossom Special with Johnny Cash, and I remember I did that solo with Two Harmonicas, and at the end of the session, he said, "Hey, can you show me how to do that?" No, I said. So I did. I showed. I said, "I tell you what, John. These two harmonicas, it's a gift." I just gave them to him.
Wow.
And later he started doing it on stage.
Yeah. I remember seeing that. What was the reasoning for using two harmonicas?
I was trying to simulate the way the fiddle plays it. We didn't have a clue. He started singing the song, and all of a sudden he said, why don't you, talking about me and Boots Randolph, why don't you guys play the solo in this? And I'm thinking, whoa, wait a minute. This is a fiddle tune. What can I do on this? So, and it was really great because, it has become my kind of signature show closer. Now, obviously, as time wore on, I learned to play it a lot better and a lot faster.
I'll bet. Was there ever a time where one of your harmonicas didn't function right, and it kind of created a embarrassing situation?
Well, not much on studio work because I always have ample backups, but I've had it happen on stage from time to time. Not very seldom, but occasionally. And I just learned how to get around that note that's not working.
The show must go on, right?
Oh, sure, absolutely. People that are in the audience, they don't much care if your instrument malfunctions. They came to hear it.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, tell me about the "He Stopped Loving Her Today" session. I know there's just a few a few bars there where you're playing on that, but it really set that part of the song off. Were you there when George was recording this song?
Yeah, we were all together. Billy Sherrill sit down at the piano and was running the song down for us. Of course, he was, also teaching it to Pig Robbins. We all know Pig's blind. Of course, all he has to do is hear it once, and
he's got it. Yeah.
So, and we had a room full of people. We had, background group and the whole rhythm section, and Billy, I think he forgot that I was there, because he said, "Okay, I'm going to go in the control room and let's play it. Let me hear it." And as he walked by me, he stopped with this kind of startled look on his face, and he said, "Get something on the second verse." That was it.
Wow. That was kind of an afterthought, huh?
Yeah, all of a sudden he wrote, "Whoa, wait a minute, I got him here too. I need to have something for him to do."
Wow. Well, you put that right where it needed to be. I mean, geez, that
I tell you, it was one of those sessions when he was running the song down, all the musicians were looking at each other like, "Hey, we're on to something special here." Some of those records you just knew, that it was going to be something special.
And it certainly was. It's widely regarded as the number one country song of all time by many, many, many different polls, and it's certainly my favorite. And I know George didn't think much of the song when he first recorded it, but it's pretty amazing.
Well, that story's happened a lot in town. Patsy Cline did not want to record "Crazy" either.
Wow.
The word was that she kept telling Owen Bradley that she wasn't a ballad singer. And we all know she's one of the greatest ballad singers of all time.
Absolutely. It's amazing to hear all this history. Well, Charlie, you've been given so many fantastic, well-deserved awards. In 1994, you won the Musician Award from the Reunion of Professional Entertainers. You've been elected to the German American Country Music Hall of Fame, the Hall of Fame of the North American Country Music Association International, the International Musicians Hall of Fame, the Old Time Country Music Hall of Fame, and the West Virginia Music Hall of Fame, and of course, the Country Music Hall of Fame. And that's amazing.
You know what? All of that is, I mean, I'm very proud of it. It's all icing on the cake. But for me, to get to do this for a living and to, I've done nothing but play music my whole life. I mean, it's like a dream,
Well, I'm sure, obviously you've got some wonderful memories and all these wonderful people you've been blessed to work with over the years, and they've been blessed to work with you. And I thought it was very nice that you and Roy Clark were inducted in the Hall of Fame together. I thought.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
And Barbara as well, because I played on most of Barbara's records.
Yeah.
And that was very special to go in with those two.
Did you know that ahead of time that you were going to be inducted into there?
We knew. We got a call in February of that year, and then we had. They had a press conference like in March to announce it, and we were allowed. They said, "Okay, you choose who you want to make the announcement." So I chose Mel Tillis, who's the first one who ever suggested to me to go to Nashville.
Wow.
And then when it came October for the actual induction, they said, you choose who you want to induct you. And I chose Harold Bradley. Owen Bradley's brother also was in the Hall of Fame. He was the first session leader that I ever worked for. And he and I worked, I can't tell you how many sessions together over the years. And by the way, I started to work on my 40th album, and Harold played on my album.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, he's either, if he's not 90, he's close to it. And he brought that bass guitar in there and just nailed it.
Wow, that's incredible. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing this. Tell me a little bit more about this album.
This album is, the working title is called Ear Candy.
I like that.
I have a duet with Mickey Raphael, Willie's harmonica player.
Oh, wow.
We're doing City of New Orleans together.
Nice.
I'm doing some, country classics. I did Statue of a Fool. I did the Wilma Burgess song called Baby, which Owen Bradley told me was his favorite record he ever produced.
Really?
I did it with a young singer from Florida because the magic of that record was the arrangement that Owen put together. So it didn't make sense to just do it instrumentally. We're going to do it the way Owen put it together, which was brilliant,
Oh, sure, yeah.
And I've got a Henry Mancini tune on there, Moon River.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's still I'm not finished yet. I've still got some more to go.
Well, that's great. Well, I hope when you finish it, you'll get us a copy, because I would love to play it on the air and
oh, absolutely,
for our folks to listen
absolutely.
to.
When we're through, I'll stay on, and you give me your mailing address there.
Oh, that'll be great. I'd appreciate that. I know my listeners will too. Well, you have traveled all over the world. You've performed in Europe and Asia and Japan and just all over. And it certainly looks to me like you're staying busy and continuing to tour and record too.
Yeah, I have. I've got 2 out of the country this year. In August, I'll be in Czech Republic and Germany, and in October in Japan for the 21st time.
Wow. How is it playing in Japan as opposed to playing in the United States? Are the audiences less receptive, more receptive, or?
No, the audiences are great. Percentage-wise, the country music fans in Japan, it's not a very big percentage. But when you consider how many people are in Japan, we get a good, we play our main concert there. We play to about between 12 and 1,500 people.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's really the fans over there, the ones who are into country music, they're kind of knowledgeable about it, and they really, really appreciate it.
Now, do you have a band that tours with you, Charlie?
Actually, no, I have bands everywhere. One band in Japan, I have another one in Czech, another one I'm going to be playing with in Germany. I used to have one I played with in Sweden, and also in France.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, are any of your kids involved in the music at all?
My son is the music director at his church in South Carolina. He's a computer guy. That's what he does for a living. But he's pretty talented. Sings, plays guitar, plays bass, writes songs, and he really enjoys being the music director at his church.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, I read that all of your kids, in one way or another, are involved with your various albums through the years, whether it be on the cover or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, my son played guitar on one of my records. My daughter played vibraphone on one record. My second Christmas album, both of them sang with me, and I had all my grandchildren sing on it.
Oh, that's great. How many grandkids do you have?
I have 5.
Wow.
Yeah, I have 3 girls, 2 boys. Have a school teacher, 2 in college, 1 in high school, 1 in junior high.
Wow, that's amazing. Are you still playing a lot of sessions for other artists?
Well, I'm I'm still for hire. I don't work as much as I used to, and it's the evolution of things. Many of the producers are younger than my grandchildren.
Yeah.
And they go for younger musicians, and it's the way it happens. It always is. Mm-hmm. But you know what? I still love to do it. I love to be a part of the process, and like I said, I'm still here, and I'll play whenever I get a chance.
Well, it looks like you're staying busy enough with your own music, so that's fantastic. And folks, I do want to let you know to visit charliemccoy.com, and Charlie has a whole bunch of his albums available there that you can purchase, and he has tour schedules there and all sorts of great pictures and information, so you can keep track of where he's going to be, and you'll want to keep an eye out for the new album that's on the way, because I'm quite excited about it. From what you've told me, it sounds like it's going to be fabulous.
Yeah, I think we're trying to shoot for maybe the early fall for a release.
Well, fantastic.
Oh, and let me tell you one other thing that I'm excited about. A book. I wrote a book 3 or 4 years ago, never could find a publisher, and I finally hooked up with a music professor at West Virginia University, and West Virginia University Press is going to publish it. It's an autobiography, and it'll be probably after the first of the year.
Well, great. I love reading things like that because it gives a first-hand account of great memories, kind of like what we've been talking about here today.
Yeah, it's just some days I look back and think about everything that's happened, and it just doesn't seem real sometimes. I think I'm the most blessed man in America.
Well, and I think it's well deserved. You're a fantastic musician all around, and highly sought after, and you're known obviously worldwide. So it's a wonderful thing, and thank you so much for all the music you've given us all these years too. Well,
I appreciate it. I've been lucky to play with some of the greatest, and that's really cool because what I found out, that almost all of those superstars were real nice people.
And I found that too as I do these interviews, and it's it's a delight to talk to them, and yourself too. It's I don't take things like this lightly. It's an honor for me to be able to talk to folks like yourself and hear about your wonderful careers.
Well, I just a guy asked me in the Czech Republic. He says, "Do you mind if I ask how old you are?" And I said, "No, I don't mind." I said, "I'm 74." He said, "How do you do that?" Well, I said, I walk 3 miles a day and I play a lot of harmonica. And,
well, there you go.
And I'm, I'm still excited about this.
Well, any folks listening out there that want to discover the fountain of youth, Charlie McCoy just told you, walk 3 miles a day and learn how to play the harmonica.
Okay, there you go. My wife says I'm full of hot air. I don't know.
I get that too. Well, Charlie, I hope that when your book comes out and when your CD comes out, if you would consider it, I'd love to have you back on the show and we can do a whole feature on that. And
Absolutely.
that would be fantastic. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us here. And it's a distinct pleasure to have you on My Kind of Country.
Well, Scott, I appreciate it, and I'm glad you're keeping the real country going.
Well, we're going to keep it going, and we're going to keep it going with one of yours right now. This is just the most beautiful version of Today I Started Loving You Again. Here is Charlie McCoy as we continue on My Kind of Country. Charlie, thank you again.
Thank you, Scott.